Wait for it.
There we go.
Are we actually live? Hello. Are we live?
Hello.
Hello. How's it going? I am Greg Tito, and I'm here for some Dungeons & Dragons news. You caught me in mid-selfie as we are going live here, and I'm about to tweet out that we're starting right about here. How's the sound? Good? You can hear me? Great. Bear with me for a second while I do this. I am going to run down through all of the fun Dungeons & Dragons news that we are talking about in the world right about now before we get ready for Dice Camera Action starting at 4 p.m. Pacific Time. They have episode 84 coming down the pipe, and it is going to be pretty exciting. So yeah, I'm just typing here, twitch.tv/DND. That's it. Getting people on board. Jeremy, do you have a Twitter handle, by the way? I don't even know.
I do.
You do? Yeah.
Jay Smiling.
Jay Smiling?
Yep.
All right, sweet. We got Jay Smiling here helping.
Okay.
Which one?
Smiley.
Smiley.
Smiley. Underscore Smiley.
Like smiley, like.
Smiley, like jokey, and yay.
That's it?
That is it.
The top one?
Wait. Maybe. No.
No? J-A-Y?
We'll find it.
All right, we'll find it. All right, cool. Well, I'm just going to tweet it out, sans, but that's Jeremy in the picture, in case those of you who are watching. How's it going on this fine Tuesday? I hope you're all getting excited about Dice Camera Action popping up. I know that's what you're all here to do, so I'm going to talk to you about what's going on in Dungeons & Dragons world before we start that, and we've got some fun stuff coming. This is the first thing I want to talk about is Loot Crate. Do you guys know what Loot Crate is? It's a service where you can pay a subscription and you get a fun box in the mail each month with stuff that you can't get anywhere else. Some of it they make for specifically, some of it's from brands and things like that. We've done lots of fun stuff in the past, including gosh, when I started working here, there was a red shirt, not dissimilar from this, in which, but it was red with the white ampersand on it, and a lot of folks just jumped onto that, and they've been doing lots of more D&D stuff since then, and they have something really cool. Nathan Stewart might have mentioned it last week during his fireside chat, but I'm going to talk to you guys again. It is a Red Dragon die keeper. Looks just like this. In the box, this is what you'll get, but we actually have the object d'art right here. This is an authentic red dragon from Dungeons & Dragons, and it's called a dice keeper because I think this little miniature was designed to hold on to to a D20, just like so. For you. Now, I do have to let you know, I tried that out. This is a smaller sized D20. It does come with one in the box, but if you try to use a regular sized D20, and I'm using a spin down from our friends at Magic here to test it, can't really quite get it in the dragon. I guess he's not big enough. This is an extremely young dragon, just hatched. He can't eat the entire D20 on his own, like us normal humans do like to eat them. But it's still a very cool item. You can probably put smaller dice in here, like D8s or something like that, if you so demand. It's a great way to put a die in die jail or dice jail if they are not rolling well. Of course, usually D20s are the ones you might want to do that with. But maybe you have smaller D20s that kind of the form factor that fits in there. So how do you get this, you might ask? Well, you have to subscribe to the March the March Loot Crate box. If you order by March 19th, you will receive the Loot Crate box with that in there, and that's 9 p.m. Pacific time on March 19th. But I have something even specialer for you. If you use the code DRAGON, D-R-A-G-O-N, you'll get 10% off your first month subscription for Loot Crate, and you can go to lootcrate.com/DND to order that and get that discount and put that code in there and make it happen. So those of you who love it, go ahead and jump on board. It is, like I said, it's a pretty cool item. Even if you aren't necessarily going to use it to keep dice, you can use it in your campaign as a red dragon. It's all authentic and looks pretty sweet in my mind. So put it at your desk, use it in your game, eat it. If you are into eating dragon meat or plastic, make it happen. Cool. Another fun thing that's happening is Dungeons & Dragons stuff was nominated for a whole bunch of Board Game Geek Golden Geek Awards. Two Dungeons and Dragons products were on there. Actually, well, yeah, two in total. So Xanathar's The Guide to Everything was nominated both for Best Artwork and Presentation, which is super awesome. I love the artwork in Xanathar's Guide in particular, but in all of our supplements. And then Best Supplement was nominated for Xanathar's Guide to Everything, as well as Tales from the Yawning Portal. Gosh, do you remember Tales from the Yawning Portal? It feels like it was just you know, a long time ago, but that was just last year that we were talking about all of those awesome old school adventures that were repackaged for 5th edition, and it's got lots of great ways to jump into the D&D, you know, universe from ways that you might have been from the past. So I love that it's being recognized by Board Game Geek. Thank you so much to everybody who nominated and or voted for it. And the coolest thing, perhaps, you know, more personally, is that Dragon Talk, the podcast that I host with Shelly Mazanoble, was also nominated for Best Podcast in the RPG category. So very humbled by that. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast and or watches us goof around and record live on twitch.tv/DND like we do each Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. We just recorded a fantabulous couple of episodes yesterday, one with the crew from D&D Beyond, Adam Bradford and Todd Kenrick, as well as Zalavir Nelson, I'm going to pronounce it right, Zalavir Nelson Jr., and all of the work that he's been doing with both RPGs and tabletop role-playing games. So good stuff there. Go watch those. We also did a few Lore You Should Know episodes about the Shatterkai and the Raven Queen. So good, exciting, fun stuff there. Go check them out if you haven't seen the live recordings yet, and they'll be out on the podcast very soon. Neverwinter Lost City of Omu is out now on PC. Neverwinter is the action MMO from our friends at Cryptic Studios and from Perfect World. They do good work, including the Star Trek MMO, the Star Trek Online, which you should check out. And there's lots of other fun stuff coming down the pipe from both Cryptic and Perfect World that involve people here. So very excited about that. And Lost City of Omu finishes up their storyline from the Tomb of Annihilation, and you get to explore the Temple of the Lost Nine Lost Gods there as well. So good stuff. It'll be out on PS4 and Xbox One a little bit later. Find out more at playneverwinter.com. Jump in. It's completely free to play. You don't need to spend anything, and you can experience Dungeons & Dragons lore and embody what it's like to run around the city of Neverwinter, which is a pretty beautiful city if you haven't checked it out. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. We announced this. It is coming out on May 29th for a wide release. It's got a really cool cover associated with that by Jason Rainville. But then on May 18th, 11 days before that, you can buy it at your friendly local game store. You can get that regular cover, or only in your game store can you get the alternate game cover, which is designed by Vance Kelly. It's got full of blues and golds in it. It looks very similar to all of the chrome and overlays and frames that we have now on our D&D Twitch channel. So if you're a fan of that kind of aesthetic, you'll love the cover of the new Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. What is Tome of Foes? What has it got in there? Well, first of all, Mordenkainen is a fantabulous wizard from the city of Greyhawk. He was actually the character that Gary Gygax played whenever he was a player at the table and not a dungeon master himself, which is pretty darn cool. He's full of lore and spells. You may have even cast a few spells that bear his name, such as Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion. He has one. It's magnificent. He also has a magnificent goatee, and as well as a magnificent bald pate. Those are some other fun spells that you might be able to cast if you get Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. But he goes through and lets you know all about the eternal or just ongoing and amazing conflicts of the multiverse, including the Gith, so the Gith Yankee and the Gith Zerai, why they had a schism all those years ago, why the Dark Elves, the Drow, are no longer associated with all the other species of elf that are available in Dungeons & Dragons lore. There's also, I just found this out when I was talking to Jeremy Crawford. There's also a chapter in there that involves the gnomes and the halflings, because they are races that don't have a lot of conflict, and we like to talk about to them and what they're all about too. So that is pretty cool stuff. Again, that'll be coming out May 29th for everyone. You can pre-order it on Amazon and D&D Beyond, but you should also, if you're going to get it in your local game store and get that alternate cover designed by Vance Kelly, you should pre-order it at your local game store. Make sure you let them know that you plan to buy the alternate cover. We heard from a lot of people from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, as well as Volo's Guide to Monsters, that the game store that they frequent ran out of those kind of copies. So I hope that doesn't happen to you and you reserve one for you. Cool. Want to let you know real quick about Warriors of Waterdeep. It is a mobile game that's being designed by Ludia. That is a free-to-play, turn-based mobile game that you can play on your phone. So on iOS and Android. It'll be coming later on this spring. You can pre-register, learn more about it at warriorsofwaterdeep.com. You'll receive a Laeral gift pack because you'll be able to complete tasks set to you by the Open Lord of Waterdeep, Laeral Silverhand herself, as well as a few other fun named characters within the city of Waterdeep, including Mert the Moneylender and Durnan, the bartender / proprietor of the Yawning Portal. You might even remember him from being depicted on the cover of the Tales from the Yawning Portal book that is up for a Golden Geek Award for Best Supplement. See how this all relates? It's crazy. All right, so that's all that's going on there. You can check out a trailer for Warriors of Waterdeep. We're not going to drop. Well, no, yeah, you can do it right there. There's a link. I'm sure you can get the trailer from the Warriors of Waterdeep link that Lauren threw into the chat right there. So how else are you guys going? Are you enjoying what's happening in Dice Camera Action? It sounds like everybody's fighting and not being friends right about now. So I am very curious to see how this resolves and how Strix deals with having traveled to adventure with Jerry Holkins and the C Team last week as well. This will all be interesting how Chris Perkins is able to reintegrate her back into what's happening here. Apparently she got a few magic items that may sway what's happening on the Dice Camera Action side. We'll see what happens. Very cool. All right, so some fun stuff that I wanted to let you know that's happening in the thing. Dungeons and Dragons Beyond, I always say that, it's D&D Beyond, they do lots of great videos. Todd speaks to the coolest creators in the Dungeons and Dragons world, I think. And he was at Emerald City Comic Con this past weekend and found a really amazing cosplay that I think we'll just show it to you right now. Oh yeah, do the Kenku one if you can, not that one. There you go. There you go. That's a still shot of the Kenku costume. It doesn't do it justice. You have to actually go and watch the video of Todd speaking to. I'm going to get their name right. Rob Bopp, who is the creator of this. She loved her D&D character. She obviously has a love for both Dungeons & Dragons birds and being able to do both of those at the same time with this Kenku costume pretty much made my day. It's an amazing costume, but it's not just a costume, it's an entire character that she embodies, and walking around with her as a bird is fantastic. So if you haven't already, go check out that video at D&D Beyond, and while you're there, why don't you make a few characters? Maybe you can even make a Kenku if you'd like. They are great at being able to give you the tools needed to create characters, as well as just look up things on the fly really quick. They spoke to this about I spoke to them about this yesterday on Dragon Talk, but D&D Beyond now has a mobile app that you can try out. And the difference there is D&D Beyond was on the web. It needed a browser in order to make a character, but now you can download a app right now. It's in beta. It's on the Google Play Store and the iTunes Store right now, or the App Store, I guess it's called for Apple folks. I'm not an Apple person. I don't know how these things work, but you can do it from there. And right now they're just testing only the compendium. So if you have content such as the Player's Handbook or Xanathar's Guide to Everything, You can read it on your mobile app now. You download it all. You don't need a web connection after you make that initial download. You can look up stuff using a search function. You can do bookmarks. They're testing out everything that make this compendium and this e-reader style of things work really well. So go to the store right now if you can and check it out. It's worth it. And if you can, give some feedback. They're always looking for ways that they can improve both their tool set as well as their presentation in this app. And I love that they're committed to player feedback, just as Dungeons & Dragons was for the D&D Next playtest. We did that for 2 years in front of 175,000 playtesters, and it wasn't no secret what was going to go into 5th edition, and it really was very instrumental that we got the feedback that we did from the community. So please go do that for Dungeons & Dragons Beyond if you can. It's a free download, completely free. You'll be able to test out whatever you can and give some feedback to them on the D&D Beyond forums. That would really help them out, as well as help you out and your fellow customers out to get the features that we want out there. Make sense? All right, cool. That's it for Rue. Let's talk about a thing from Boing Boing. We love Cory Doctorow and everything that he does. He's definitely a fan of what's going on in tabletop role-playing. And one of the writers there at Boing Boing, Gareth Brandwin, went through a list of all the fun new stuff that's happening in tabletop right now. And we were humbled that Gareth decided to talk about Xanathar's Guide to Everything. He calls it the first major rules supplement to the wildly popular 5th edition, and that Xanathar, Waterdeep's most notorious beholder and crime lord, offers his snarky, menacing thoughts in the marginalia. I love that there is a website out there that uses the term marginalia, unironically. So go to check out Boing Boing, and they also have a lot of really great other stuff that's happening in the tabletop world in that list too. But again, we're very humbled that Gareth was able to include us in that list. And then finally, here's more of a fun thing that is happening in the world. So Polygon is a game website usually devoted to digital games, but they also, Charlie Hall is a great proponent of tabletop gaming as well. And they have a few other employees that you may have heard of if you're a fan of Dungeons & Dragons and content associated with Dungeons & Dragons, like the Adventure Zone. So Griffin McElroy and Travis McElroy are two of three brothers who work for Polygon sometimes, but they also, like I said, they are my brother and me, an amazing podcast on the iTunes, and they also have the Adventure Zone, in which they play Dungeons & Dragons with their dad. So part of what they do for Polygon is they make funny videos, and one of them was called The Awful Squad. It's a series of ongoing thing as their group plays through PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is a kind of battle royale Hunger Games style game in which 50 people are dropped into an area, and then the last person who stays alive wins. They don't always win, this crew. They're called the Awful Squad for a reason. But in this particular episode, in this playthrough, they chose restrictions on their first-person shooter characters that associated them with Dungeons & Dragons classes. So Griffin McElroy was a wizard, for example, and he had to pick up and distribute healing and support areas, and he will not share a vehicle with a barbarian. Simone de Roquefort was a barbarian. She could use shotguns, pistols, and melee weapons, can equip armor, but will not hang out with the wizard. And they had a bunch of different rules for a lot of the different things, including the rogue, who could use crossbows and pistols, couldn't go into churches or sacred places, couldn't share items. The paladin was all more about healing. And then this is the funniest one, the time bard. They can use literally anything, but they only can communicate in rhyme, which I think is pretty funny. And if he doesn't do so, he had to drop a weapon. It's a long video. They definitely go through a lot of play of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Some people call that PUBG. But it's just an interesting way to play through a digital game that generally has nothing to do with Dungeons & Dragons, except for leveling up and kind of regular RPG mechanics. But they decided to take this spin on it for this thing out the gate. And it actually reminded me of another article from our friends at GamesBeat. Stephanie Chan wrote an article about a Twitch broadcaster who played Darkest Dungeon, which is a turn-based RPG. It's generally single player, but they played it online on their Twitch channel as a co-op session, and they basically played it like a tabletop session where each of the 4 players who were playing embodied one of the characters in one of the character classes in the Darkest Dungeon playthrough, and they chose to make decisions about that. So I just love hearing about the people who are playing digital games in this whole vein of through the lens of Dungeons & Dragons and that kind of cooperative play. I love it. It's good stuff, and hope more of that stuff kind of happens out there. All right, so yeah, Darkest Dungeons is great. I got Random Guy Exists just mentioned that, but I got pretty, man, it is bleak. It is hard to play that game. Maybe I need to go and find out what the best processes are, because I'm an XCOM fan. I do I'm all about people dying and it being okay, but it just felt like I was at death's door all the time, which is a mechanic in that game where doing it. So I started to do smaller expeditions, but then I didn't get any rewards for it, and I was not really making my characters advance or get better at what they were supposed to be doing, because I was doing these smaller things. So, and then I eventually ran out of money. So I'm not really figuring out what that middle ground is. So maybe you can help me. Yeah, thank you, Random Guy. I need your help, Random Guy. That's what I just need help from a random guy, because he exists. All right. Anybody else been playing any games out there that aren't Dungeons & Dragons, or are they Dungeons & Dragons related? Let me know, because I'm always looking for more. Speaking of one, if you guys are looking for one, Tales from Candlekeep, Tomb of Annihilation is a amazing retelling or reimagining of the 4th edition style adventure system games. So there's been 5 of them now. There's Castle Ravenloft, Legend of Drizzt, Wrath of Ashardalon, and Elemental Evil, and now Tomb of Annihilation. They're all physical board games that have been out there. You might have seen them on game store shelves, or you own a few yourself. Tales from Candlekeep takes the Tomb of Annihilation board game and puts it on digital so that you can play it on Steam. It's really fun. It makes you think about the tactics and how you optimize your moves a little bit more than you would in a standard Dungeons & Dragons game, which I kind of like. Sometimes you need to exercise that tactical brain a lot. But the fun thing about Tales from Candlekeep is they are up for a Twitch Prime Indie Amplifier contest, which goes until March 11th. There's a link in here. Maybe you can throw that in there if you can, if Lauren isn't already going to do it. But if you go and vote for Tales from Candlekeep Tomb of Annihilation, you can download the winning game for free on the Ides of March. That's right, March 15th, when Julius Caesar was murdered by his fellow senators and Romans and countrymen. They lent him his ears. I don't know why I keep saying that when I say March 15th, but it just makes me laugh. The winning game, so if you vote for Tales from Candlekeep, everybody who has voted will be able to download it for free. So if that's something that you're interested in, jump into it and vote for Tales from Candlekeep if you can. There is a deluxe version with 4 DLC packs available now, including crafting, gear, and wallpapers for each of the heroes. There's a new hero. I only shipped with 4 heroes, but now a new one, a 5th one is now available, Kawasha the Druid. There's also a bard, Elf Song the Bard. You can play as Artis Cimber, who figures prominently, at least as the giver of the Ring of Winter to Dice Camera Action, which is going to start in about 12 minutes. So all of the stuff that's going on with Paulton, you might get a little bit more about that if you play through Tales from Candlekeep Tomb of Annihilation. At least you'll find out what Artis Cimber is all about, and use some of those cold powers that he has because he possesses the Ring of Winter in that game itself. Beamdog is doing some fun stuff. They are making Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition. Did you guys play Neverwinter Nights? Anybody? It is a super fun game. Came out in, I believe, 2002. It had tons of expansions and everything like that. One of the coolest parts about that isometric first-player Dungeons & Dragons game is that you could create anything you wanted. You could create modules, persistent servers, using the Aurora toolset that shipped with Neverwinter Nights. It ended up being this calling card for people who were designing digital RPG games. I heard many a time people being like, oh, if you want to find out how to break into the industry, make a mod in Neverwinter Nights and show that off to creators, and you'd be able to be involved and make that happen. So I just realized I was like leaning back this far. So Sorry about that. I'll sit up straight, as my mom used to tell me. So yeah, they are making that right now. It is super cool. One of the coolest thing about it is that all the mods and creations and saves, even game saves from that old edition of Neverwinter Nights will work in the Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition. Beamdog is fantastic at making these enhanced editions. They did it with Baldur's Gates 1 and 2. They did it with Icewind Dale. They've done it with Planescape Torment, which is the one I played most recently. It's very awesome. If you want to jump into any kind of RPG, that is one that the writing holds up amazingly well and makes you think. In fact, it's also the setting of Sigil, the City of Doors. It's one of the ways that most people kind of got introduced into that kind of area, and it is now the setting of Trapped in the Birdcage, the new streaming show that Holly Conrad, who plays Strix on Dice Camera Action, is running Thursday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time. But you can get more about that setting if you play the Planescape Torment Enhanced Edition. But the last thing I want to let you know about Beamdog is Siege of Dragonspear is their original Baldur's Gate game storyline. It takes place between Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2, and it is now available on Google Play and on the Apple App Store so that you can play it directly on your tablet if you so wish. In the past, it was an expansion, so you needed to have Baldur's Gate 1 in order to play Siege of Dragonspear, I think, but now it is a standalone app that you can download and play through all of that original content that came out last year. It's good stuff. Dragon Plus. Do you guys watch Dragon Plus? Watch. Well, it was the previous show that Bart Carroll was talking to Holly on, and it does great stuff. And Bart Carroll also runs the app, Dragon Plus. There's 18 issues out now. That's right, the 18th issue just came out. There's tons of amazing free content that you can get inside Dragon Plus, as well as interviews, insight into the making of both Dungeons & Dragons and a lot of our licensees and games that are out there too. So in this specific issue, comes out every 2 months. In this issue, exclusive Dragonfire adventure called Warlock's Crypt. If you don't know what Dragonfire is, it is a basically deck building cooperative game that uses Dungeons & Dragons lore and mechanics to basically run through a little D&D module, and you have a persistent character throughout that gains powers over time. Check that out. It's in your local game store on the shelves. Really great, and it's able to be added more and more stuff to it as things come out. So they have this new adventure called Warlock's Crypt that you can only get in Dragon Plus. So download that there if you're interested in more content for Dragonfire. There's also tons of maps that you can download in there, including the Tomb of Annihilation 9 Shrines, Nangalore, Camp Vengeance, Wreck of the Star Goddess, and Fane of the Night Serpent. So these are all maps that were included in Tomb of Annihilation, the book itself, and you can download these kind of individually and use them now in Dragon Plus much more easily. There's also a free adventure, The Crypts of Kelemvor by Thomas Foss and Scott Fitzgerald Gray, rather, and it's adapted from a Neverwinter online, the MMO side quest for levels 3 through 5 is WoW. They basically adapted a side quest in Neverwinter and turned it into a tabletop module that you can run at anywhere you want. And Thomas Foss was the designer of this. He's the lead designer on Neverwinter now, and it's pretty cool that he went in and delved back into tabletop stuff. He designed a lot of tabletop stuff on his own, so it was kind of cool to see him jump into that. Really good stuff. So that's only scratching the surface of what's available in Dragon Plus issue 18. Go download it. It's available for Android, iOS, as well as, what else? What else, guys? It's on dragonmag.com. If you don't have any of your phones, you just want to get access to this content on your regular computer if you have access to a browser. So go do that, please. It's totally free. Anything content that's in there is also free. We just like giving stuff to fans, I guess. That's what we do. So we got lots of streaming stuff I want to get through in the next couple minutes before I take a little break. We love all the Twitch subscribers we have in here. You guys are wonderful. Scott Fitzgerald, yes, I know. I'm sorry, Crystal Fier. That is what I said. It happens too fast. Oh, thank you, Scarlet Moth. You are a good person for subscribing via Twitch Prime yet again. 8 months in a row? What? That's crazy. That's a lot of months. Scarlet Moth, of course, is one of the people who does a after show for Dice Camera Action for each episode. We have been hosting that. I'm not exactly sure where it is going to end up on our schedule right now, but I know that the time has changed a bunch. But thank you, Scarlet Moth, for doing that. And we will be getting more and more stuff from that crew very soon. I'm excited. I can't spill the beans just yet, but thank you for subscribing. So yeah, some more stuff that's going on today. We have Mitz Clicks Lost Mine after Dice Camera Action. So that's Anna Prosser Robinson, who plays Evelyn, who is dungeon mastering for the first time. She's on her third session, I believe. She's going through the starter set with Trump SC, Koibu, V. Parlafoy, and Genevieve. Great people. We love them, and I just love that more and more players are jumping into the dungeon mastering thing, and we are encouraging that as much as possible. And Anna is doing a fantastic job doing it. So stay tuned after this. We'll be hosting that from the Misclicks channel. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we've got the Acquisitions Incorporated C team. Strix was just on there last week guesting, and it looks like they are continuing with what's going on there with Kate Welch, Amy Falcone, Ryan Hartman, and Chris Straub playing amazing characters with the Dungeon Master, Jerry, holding it all together just slightly. We love them, and they are continuing to be fun partners in telling D&D stories here on Twitch. Thursday, we got 1 p.m. Pacific time, Codename Entertainment. They are the ones who make Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. What is Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, you might ask? Well, it is a game that you can get on Steam Early Access right now. You can send folks out on quests. You can then walk away and let it all happen. They can collect loot, they kill monsters, they do it all in real time. So you can check in, optimize your party, and walk away for a little while, and then check back in, collect all the loot that was going on, and then kind of level them up in real time. It's a nice little light touch, strategic, fun way to interact with Dungeons & Dragons stories and lore, and they've got tons of events that come out with new and fantastic rewards going all the time. So go check that out if you can, and their live stream what is their live streams on? It is on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Go check it out. Oh, and Waffle Talk is on 4 p.m. Pacific time on Thursdays. I finally found it. Sorry about that, guys. 4 p.m. Pacific time on Thursdays. We'll recap what has happened and discuss the previous Tuesday episode of Dice Camera Action during that time. Go check that out, and then it runs right into Trapped in the Birdcage, which I mentioned, where's Dungeon Master Holly Conrad. She did her episode 2 last week, and character Saturn was using the Zone of Truth to find out the real name of the crone who summoned them, and then Saturn tried to steal a rug, and then it got attacked by the rug, which happens often in Sigil, and then they meet a guide hired by the crone Adele to take them around Sigil, and they get to actually just enter the city for the first time. So I love the way that Holly describes all that. She is obviously intimately familiar with Sigil and everything that goes on there. So if you haven't, go check out that after listening to the Waffle Talk episode right before that. We are hosting Critical Role at 7 p.m. Pacific time. They're starting up their, they're knee deep in their new campaign. We love all the new characters and what's been going on there. We host them here, and obviously they have a lot of people who show up for chat. So if you want to have a kind of a discreet, smaller group of people, come and hang out here on the D&D channel with your fans and your friends, and that's a great way to get through it. I'm going to rush through the last couple of ones because we want to get some time to throw some ads up before we start Dice Camera Action at 4 p.m. in just 2 minutes, so it's happening soon. But I definitely want to make sure you guys check out Heroes Graveyard. The second episode for this new season is happening soon. There's 2 new PCs joined the party, and that is a really fun group of people because they are folks who may not be in the D&D crowd or play D&D all the time. They come from more of a digital gaming kind of streaming background, but they are in here, and then anybody who dies in the game, if their character dies, then they leave the game. Kind of a fun little conceit, and it's really fun. And then Sunday, Girls Guts Glory is coming back at 3 p.m. Pacific time, right after Maze Arcana Orphan Echo from 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific time. So go check them out. All right. I'm running out of time. I thought I had plenty of time, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching Dungeons & Dragons News. We have Dice Camera action coming up in just a little bit. I hear Chris laughing and getting the cast warmed up. So we're going to run a few ads. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. You won't be watching those ads, subscribers, but if you haven't, you're going to have some fun ads before we get started with episode 84 of Dice Camera Action. Coming right at you. Thanks, everybody.